Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now Eddie Hearn has explained talks are ongoing for the Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fight, and obviously Oleksandr Usyk is a stumbling block that they have to get beyond. And perhaps talks aren't going as easily and as smoothly as they first believed, because Usyk wants a substantial step aside money, or there has been rumours that he wants a lot of money to step aside to allow Anthony Joshua to go away from his mandatory challenge and go and fight Tyson Fury instead. This is what Eddie Hearn had to say. I think it's a situation where this isn't really a dig at his team, but some people just have the idea that he should be getting millions of dollars to step aside for this fight. Really what will happen is, we will apply for the WBO to allow the undisputed fight to happen. If they say no, you need to talk to Oleksandr Usyk, we will go to Oleksandr Usyk and we will try to make him happy to allow the fight to go on. It's like, do you really want to stop this fight from happening? Now, you have to be respected because you are in the mandatory position, but there is a solution. As I've said before, this fight between Fury and AJ will happen with all the belts or not one belt at all. But the problem is, when there's a big fight like this, everyone wants... I've got to get my words right here. The greed is unbelievable. It's going to come down to the fighters. The fighters are paying millions of dollars in sanctioning fees. I've heard someone say that Usyk wants a percentage of the AJ Fury purse to step aside, and I was like, mate, but there's a solution, and everyone's smart. Together we can find a solution, and I really want it to be undisputed, because that's always been the dream for AJ, and we'll do everything that we can. But we are not going to be held ransom by anyone, and if we lose a belt, we'll probably vacate them all. This is boxing now, but if everyone is sensible and will be fair in return, hopefully we can find a solution. Part of what I've been doing the last couple of weeks is going around trying to find out where we can stage major events. If we are going to be doing the fight end of May or early June, which we will be, can you tell me that we will do 100,000 at Wembley? Probably not. So where we'll put up the money for the fight? And that's really now what I've been doing, and Bob Arum is looking for partners as well, but I don't see anything getting in the way of that fight. Josh has been training since the Pulev fight, to be honest. You think that Tyson has been doing the same also? In their heads every day, they wake up and they're thinking about each other, and thinking, that's my next fight, and bearing a disaster, it will be. So there we go, those are some interesting words from Eddie Hearn. It does seem like they are pushing towards this fight being next, and it's not just a load of hot air. This fight is probably going to happen next, which is the closest we've been so far. In the past, we have been skeptical because, you know, there have been so many things that get in the way, and we've been told big fights like this are going to happen before, but they don't. This time, hopefully it does pull through. Now, there are some greedy demands apparently, or rumours of greedy demands from Oleksandr Usyk. Whether that's true or not, we don't know at the moment because we've never heard him come out and say how much he wants, but it would be a 7-figure deal. That would probably be the price for Oleksandr Usyk to step aside. Now he can enforce his position, which he said he was going to do, and fight AJ, but he's not exactly going to say, yeah, I'll step aside, give me some money, and I'll go and fight someone else, you go and do your thing. He's not really going to do that because that weakens his position. They might give him half of what they would if he said, no, I'm going to enforce my position. I want to fight AJ. That's who I want to fight. I want my opportunity. I stepped aside so you could face Pulev and wait and face me later. So I want to fight AJ. Give me that opportunity. But he's open to offers. So he's going to get more money that way. Now, in spite of that, Eddie Hearn has explained they are going to the WBO before they go to Usyk. So what they are going to do is ask for an exception to make a unification fight, which is something they can do. That is even what Anthony Joshua done when he made a unification against Joseph Parker. At that point, he had a WBA mandatory that he was supposed to deal with, but he got an exception. That WBA mandatory was Ortiz, but Ortiz chose to go and face Deontay Wilder in the interim and lost. Then the WBA mandatory became Alexander Povetkin in September 2018. Now, I'm guessing that is what they are trying to do, something similar to that. Get an exception to make a unification fight. That is down to the WBO. Now, the interesting thing about those claims is the WBO have also come out and said that Eddie Hearn knows what a commitment is. So he knows that the mandatory must have his shot, which kind of tells you that they're going to make them fight Oleksandr Usyk. And if not, then he must vacate. So clearly that is the standpoint from the WBO, which means they are going to have to go to Oleksandr Usyk and meet his demands if they want that title on the line. If not, the belt must be vacated. It seems like they are at that position now where AJ's actually explained he will vacate. We've heard it from Eddie Hearn, but you need to hear it from Anthony Joshua because he is the champion. He's the one holding the belt. It's his decision to make. So he has explained also that he would vacate if they try and force him to fight Usyk because he wants to fight Tyson Fury. So clearly that is what will happen. They will go to the WBO, but the WBO, in my opinion, will refuse considering what they said before about Eddie Hearn, about AJ, and about this whole situation. They will force him to fight Oleksandr Usyk. So they must go to Usyk and offer him probably a 7-figure deal to step aside. Now, what Eddie Hearn also said in that segment is that he is going around the world looking at places to stage this fight. It's not going to be in the UK. I think we've known that for a long time now. Even if we weren't in this current situation, you'd have to wonder if the fight was ever going to be in the UK anyway, due to the fact that they can get a site fee, they can get a lot more money going to Saudi, maybe somewhere else around the world. So that is what they are going to do. And to be honest, I think that this fight just needs to go ahead no matter where it takes place. Maybe the rematch could be in the UK. We don't know at the moment. It depends how things pan out in the UK and around the world over the coming year. So there is potential for that. The big fight is the first one. The second one is just as big, but the intrigue going in is unbelievable because we've never seen these two come together and lock horns. So you don't really know what's going to happen. You can speculate, but let's be real, no one knows 100% what is going to happen. In the rematch, it will be a little bit easier to deduce who has the upper hand between these two. That is what makes the first fight a lot more intriguing than what the second fight will be. But then again, who knows? This is the heavyweight division. The second fight might be more intriguing than the first one. That is what can happen in the heavyweight division. And the positive thing is they are actively seeking solutions to this WBO situation, and with Oleksandr Usyk, with Deontay Wilder finding a place to stage this fight. Guys, this fight is going to happen. I think that before it was speculation, before we were wondering, is it going to happen, is it not? We were very skeptical. But considering the moves that are being made, you have to wonder how far away is this fight. Eddie Hearn recently admitted that they are very close to this fight being tied up and finished. Over the coming weeks, we might be in a position where we know perhaps a date for this fight, not just maybe late May or early June, an actual date. Now, the one thing we haven't spoken about just yet is that Deontay Wilder situation, which we don't seem to be hearing all that much about, apart from the fact that Shelley Finkel has explained the mediation is still ongoing. Now, there must be a slight chance that Deontay Wilder fights at Tyson Fury, a very slim one, because if there was any more than that, then they would not be working towards this Anthony Joshua fight so fiercely. They would be thinking about, okay, let's hold off, let's wait to see what happens with this mediation. They must believe their position is fairly strong to go and try and make the Anthony Joshua fight, because the last thing they want to do is get so close to that fight being made, then have to go and fight Deontay Wilder, because the mediation goes in Deontay Wilder's favour. I believe that Deontay Wilder had his opportunity on multiple occasions to make that fight, and he did miss those opportunities by having an injury, then by stopping the fight due to a force majeure, which was the pandemic. Although fights were still going ahead, they still played that off as the excuse. Perhaps it is those two instances as to why Deontay Wilder can no longer take this fight, and because even after those two, he still didn't fight and make a date in December, even though Tyson Fury was actively trying to make that happen. I believe it all comes down to who made the decision to postpone the fight in October. It was Deontay Wilder in July, but who was it in October? If it was Deontay Wilder, then he stalled on a date in December, then Tyson Fury is free to go and fight whoever he wants. If it was Tyson Fury in October, and then they still couldn't agree a date in December, then Deontay Wilder has a case. But I don't believe it was Tyson Fury in October, and if it was, he would not be trying to go and fight someone else. They would not believe they were in this position if they weren't 100% sure. Considering Tyson Fury has had multiple lawyers look over the contract and explain that he is free to go and fight AJ if he wants to, or anyone else if he wants to, because he was going to fight on the 5th of December last year, which didn't come off due to financing and perhaps the mediation that was started and put in motion by Deontay Wilder and his team. So guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? It seems like we are getting closer. They are finding a location, they are finding a resolution to this Oleksandr Usyk situation, and hopefully soon this mediation will be resolved between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. allowing Tyson Fury to go and fight AJ. Guys, anyway, drop your thoughts on this in the comments below, leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.